All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Rob. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Rob.
The usual suspect. Um, yeah, glad to be here. And I appreciate, Matt sent a text out to a bunch of sponsees this morning. And I thought I waited long enough before I responded, but I guess I was the first one to respond. And it's always nice to be here. I'm here a lot. Actually, I'm the night watch chair. So I work a lot with Lara and the committee chairs. And night watch is the group of people that answer the phones when the AA hotline stops being directed to the intergroup office and shuts off. It goes to volunteers. So there's always somebody that answers the AA hotline when they call. It's kind of cool. I know other intergroups and service board, they get answering services. So I'm a big believer in this program. My sobriety date is January 1st, 2008. Like I said, I have worked those steps and I've had a spiritual awakening. Early on when I got here, I thought I'd have some kind of burning bush thing, like a real, God moment. But what I have found is through working the steps is that I've had a different approach to life than I did before I got here. My obsession to drink was lifted. It's huge. And like I say, I approach life differently than I used to. I was thinking too, like, where was I? 18 years ago today, end of summer 2007, I had a seventh-month-old son. I was a co-owner of a bar and a couple restaurants. I had just been 86th from a 2-year-old's birthday party. And kind of at that point kicked out of the house by the mother of my child. The wheels were coming off. That's the best way I can describe it. The gig was up. I was really good I'm really good at lying to myself that things aren't that bad. That if only you knew where I was coming from, you'd understand why I'm behaving like I am. And that's the excuse for my behavior. I justified a lot. And that was the kind of way I navigated life. I wasn't a horrible person. Like I always say in these rooms, it's like we're not bad people getting good. We're sick people getting well. And I believe that because I can't go down that rabbit hole of like, yeah, I'm a shitty person. And I don't think that I am. So late summer 2007, like I said, just the wheels were coming off. I think even at that point, the mother of my child said, hey, you need to go check out a rehab. There was a rehab down in Lake Union called like Alternatives or something like that. And I sat in on a session just to kind of get a feel for, It was funny. There was a guy reading his fifth step. I sat in on a group and the guy reading he kind of was telling a story, reading his fifth step. It was a dude that I used to party with. And he's looking at me like, what are you doing here? And I'm looking at him like, what are you doing here? I was just doing coke with you 2 months ago in your house. It was really weird. Worlds colliding. But, that was my first kind of introduction to it. No one said, hey, man, you got to go to AA. It was more like, go to treatment. The treatment's going to be the answer. And I thought that too. Like, yeah, I need a treatment like Promises or something in Malibu. I need something high end. Get something like a spa. I mean, really, I was delusional. No one ever said, I didn't come from a group of people, a family that did AA. My grandfather was an alcoholic, but I never met him. He died before I was born. And then coincidentally, I was named after him. He was Robert Fleming. I'm Robert Fleming Smith. I can say my full name because Robert Smith is about as anonymous as you can get. So like I said, 18 years ago, wheels are coming off. I'm fine. Everything's finally catching up to me. I'm still lying to myself. I didn't get into, I came in here through treatment and that's my path. I know that everyone's got different paths, how they get in here. I just so happened to, because I didn't come from a group of people that said you need to go to AA. It was more like go to treatment. So I went to not a sexy treatment center. I went up in Port Angeles at a place called Highland Court. It's not even there anymore. I think the other option I had was Sundown. I didn't know about it, but it was the mother of my child's insurance paid for it. I went to Port Angeles, and in the midst of that, and everything was just a cloud in the haze. I stopped kicking and screaming. I stopped the debate club. I just said, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be at this time. I still hadn't surrendered, to my higher power, but I think I was just so beaten down enough. Just the hard life of partying and just never ending. I was worn down. I was not a healthy person, mentally, physically, spiritually. So when I got into treatment, though, I just started listening, and I was blessed enough to go to a treatment center that said, when you get out of here, you're going to go to AA, you're going to get a home group, you're going to get a sponsor, you're going to get a service physician. I didn't know what any of this stuff was, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I remember in my group, just looking around. And the counselors in there, and remember the counselor always kind of saying to me, because you had to do like an exit strategy thing. Here's what I'm going to do when I get out. And my basic thing was like, when I get out, I just figured that I would be praised for being sober for a few weeks, and then I'd be welcomed back to my family and my loved ones with open arms. Hey, yeah, nothing to see here. The wind stopped blowing. I'm fine. And he kept on. He was kind of like, okay, but what happens if you don't get the mother of your child back, or you don't? And it could not compute. I'm like, I don't get it. I'm not drinking anymore. Everything's fine. I drank to control things. I got sober initially to control things. And I obviously, through it all, I found that's not how it works. So my first Sunday night meeting back in town, I ended up at Queen Anne Study. We were living on Queen Anne at the time, and they had a business meeting. And it was not like any business meeting that I'm like, I was a businessman, but I'm like, this kind of business meeting is this? This is not business at all. And so I was volunteered to be the cleanup guy. And I say that because that's what I needed to do to approach things. I needed to do stuff differently. Nothing changes unless nothing changes. I took that commitment, and that kept me coming back to Sunday night meeting. And I went to meetings every day, but I was held accountable to be there for that. And that was something that before, accountability was not a huge thing in my life. Like I said, I was a justifier. I can tell you exactly why I shouldn't be held accountable. But that was kind of the first step in like, okay, I'm going to do things differently. Relapse is not a part of my story, but I drank long enough that, I went through phases in my life where I'm like, I'm doing a dry January just to prove that I'm okay. I wouldn't drink for January, and then I would just make up for it in February. The wheels would be off by Valentine's Day. So I just stated that is that I don't know what it was, but I have not had a drink or a drug since I came in. But what I love about this program is that we don't shoot our wounded. We don't, everyone's welcome. There's zero judgment in these rooms. And I needed that actually, because I was raised in the church, and it was a loving God kind of church, but there is stuff that I would never tell anybody in my church that I tell people in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's so amazing how non-judgmental people are in here, and how supportive people are of people's paths in recovery. So like I say, I jumped in, got a sponsor, started working the steps slowly, very slowly. But what I did, the only thing I've done perfectly, I say, is not pick up a drink or a drug. I wish I would have done my fourth step sooner and read it to my sponsor sooner, but that's not how it was supposed to be. I'm really grateful that I didn't drink in between, finding these rooms and working the steps. It is a life and death thing. I've seen enough people. I've been around long enough now where I've been to funerals of people who died sober, and funerals of people who went back out and died in their addiction. And I have a healthy respect for the nature of this disease. I'm grateful. Like I say, I'm so grateful I found it. I'm so grateful I stopped kicking and screaming. And I'm the kind of guy that comes in and I like to sit in the back of whatever room I'm in, and I was judge from afar, like, okay, I'll, and then, oh, that's not for me, or, well, that's not me, or all this. I now know, obviously, that I need to be in the middle of this program because it is a slippery slope. I think now at this point in my sobriety, I don't think if I let up on my program, I don't think I would start drinking right away. But I know that I would revert right back to my factory default is to be a dick. That is my setting. And I don't want to be that person because I can't drink or drug at that feeling of being a dick. So I slowly through recovery, people say they gauge their spiritual fitness on like how they deal with traffic and stuff like that. I don't agree with that. I judge I judge how I'm doing with how I interact with the mother of my child. She and I have not been together for 17 years. We tried to do it like that first year of that '08, tried to kind of make it work, but I don't think she liked sober Rob or recovery Rob because I wasn't as much of a mess up. And that didn't work out, and that's fine. And then through the course of that, how I gauged where I was spiritually was how I interacted with her. And we went through a number of parent plans. We went from after he turned 2, she moved from Queen Anne to Paulsbo. We did a new parent plan. I rolled with that. I was heavily involved in his life. 2 years into sobriety, when I realized this was really working, is she called me and she said, "We're moving to Louisiana. I'm marrying a guy and we're moving to Louisiana." And I was like, but I didn't want to drink or drug. I called my sponsor and that. That lasted 3 months. He came back here. He was in elementary school in Paulsbo, my son. And then in 2019, she called me and said, "We're moving to Texas." And at that point, I had a completely different reaction than I did to when she moved to Paulsbo in 2008 and when she moved to Louisiana in 2010. That's my example of how God works in my life. Like and how my spiritual awakening is. I did not react at all in 2019. We went to family court. The judge said I couldn't stop her from taking him. She took him. So he was in Texas. My son was in Texas for 3 years. I was down there a lot. I would go to Texas meetings. It was great. They lived a little bit north of Dallas, and boy, the Texas meetings, a lot of Lord's prayers, a lot of that, but good sobriety. I was involved down there. And then toward the end of early 2022, my son was basically, I want to come live with you, Dad. And so when he finished up 8th grade, he came up here in summer 22, and he hasn't been back since. And he's living with me. And he's going to be a senior this year. He started senior year at West Seattle. Now, my point of bringing that up is that because life doesn't happen like I thought it would. Like I said, I thought once I got sober, there'd be a parade for me from my family. There'd be a cake. That I would be celebrated. So that's the selfish part. That's me being like, don't you see what I'm doing? But life is not. It's not how I thought it would go. But this program and these steps put me in a position to be open to how things go and not fight. I'm more like along the lines of with the stream of life. And I think for a lot of people that might come naturally, but as an alcoholic, for me, I need to be reminded of this all the time. And that's why I need to stay in this program. That's why I work with new men. I work with my sponsor. I'm really big right now on the Step 11 thing. And I'm a huge fan of how it's all about spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. We're reading, we're getting into some Emmett Fox, just a light read, Sermon on the Mount. But I know that I'm in a position, I just want more. It's always about trying to improve that. And that's the blessing, because before it was just, man, I'm just trying to get through the day not drinking. Or I'm just trying to get this, this feeling to go away of this. So I'm glad that I'm in a position now to be, hey, I do want to improve this. And I think that's important. And it might not always be that. I think my progression's kind of been like this, but that's fine. I don't have to freak out when it's down here. And I don't have to get too ahead of myself when it's up here. Doing the steps has kind of put me in a position to be just fine. I mean, literally, it's okay. And that's a huge blessing, because before I was so reactionary. I was either here, I was either a rock star, or I was a piece of shit. Now I'm just like dad among dads, worker among workers, friend among friends, brother among brother. It's huge. So I'm a huge proponent of this program. If you haven't done the steps yet, thoroughly recommend that you go through with the sponsor and work the steps. I appreciate being asked to share. It was a tight 15. And yeah, thank you. Sober's better. Appreciate it. All right.